What's on the docket today? What will we document?
Hello and welcome to Doll Doc. Today's doll will be the second part of the April Showers Bring May Flowers. A few weeks ago, I made an April Showers Totoro fangirl. Well, there just happens to be a character in My Neighbor Totoro named May. So, for today's doll, I will be making a May Flowers doll, who happens to also be a May fangirl. For her wig, I made a wig cap by wrapping her head in plastic film and then 2 layers of pantyhose. I then applied thin layers of glue, letting each dry in between, before marking where I wanted the part. Then I glued wefts on one by one until the head was fully covered. Now she needs a bunch of pretty flowers. To make these, I cut the petals and leaves from note cards and used watercolors to paint them. I'll be painting the petals red, purple, blue, and yellow. I like the pastel springy look the watercolors gave. For the stems, I'll be using floral wire that I twisted at one end. I then roll up the paper petals to create a small rose. Once done, I glued them to the stems with the leaves and used tweezers to clean up the hot glue strands. Now she needed some rain boots, since she would be hanging out with our rainy day Totoro girl. I started out by modifying some Monster High shoes I had. I used epoxy sculpt to give them more of a rain boot shape. Then, instead of using the paper mache technique like I did on our Totoro girl, I used pieces of note cards to create the detailing and length of the boots. I primed the boots with 2 layers of yellow and white acrylic paint that were mixed with a little bit of gloss Mod Podge. This helps give the boots that plasticky rubber shine that rain boots have. When the boots were a solid color, I then painted on a few layers of darker yellow acrylic paint and gave them some detailing. Now let's make her a dress. I wanted to create a dress similar to May's in the movie. For the base, I bought a pattern from Etsy made by Catherine of Dollightful. Her patterns are amazing and very well put together. After the video, make sure you go and check out her Etsy shop. I'll leave a link down below. I modified the pattern some to create the look I wanted and decided that I would try to use my sewing machine as little as possible today, since I know that some of you don't have sewing machines. I'll be putting this outfit together mainly by using fabric glue and hand stitching. Just a warning, I'm not the best at hand stitching. I cut out all my pieces out of knit fabric. With my fabric glue, I'm going to glue the pink pieces onto the white. I only put the glue on the edges, and the brand I use is Eileen's Quick Dry Fabric Fusion. I really like the strength of this glue, but it is a little bit thick. Make sure when you glue your back straps down that you line them up with the front. Now I use my fabric glue to glue the shoulders together. Once these are placed together, I'll use my trusty binder clips to clamp them in place until they're fully dried. Now for the sewing. I usually try to avoid hand stitching, but I found for tiny doll sleeves, it works great. Even if you're not that good at it. Like myself. I forgot to do this before I put the sleeves on, but I'm going to hem the edges with my fabric glue and clamp them in place with my binder clips. Once the sleeves are dry, I stitched up the rest of the sleeves and sides of the dress. I wanted to add a little bit of trim to the bottom of the dress. I'll also be adding this same trim to the collar. For the bottom part of the dress, I'll be sewing a gathering stitch. I'm using white thread here, and it doesn't really matter the color you use because you can remove it in the end. Once the fabric of the skirt is nice and gathered, I pin it right sides together to the top of the dress. I try to even out the gathering as best I can as I pin. For sewing these two pieces together, this is the one time I use my sewing machine, but it can easily be hand sewn. Now to glue down the sides of the back, and I also put the skirt right sides together and glue it as well. I wanted to make some socks for this doll, but they ended up turning out more like leg warmers since I cut out the toes because I wanted them to bunch more around her legs. For this, I just traced a pattern using the outline of her legs, cut it out, and used fray check on the edges. Once this had dried, I used fabric glue to glue the pieces together and set them aside until completely dry. Now to my favorite part, which is always the face up. I used a Laguna Blue doll, so I needed to recolor her skin. I started out by prepping her with 3 layers of Mr. Super Clear and then dusting a light pink onto her skin to neutralize the blue. I did 2 layers of the light pink color, sealing between each one before starting to add some natural skin tone colors to her face. She was still a little too pink, so into my natural skin tone color I added a tiny bit of green to neutralize the pink. In the comments below, let me know if you'd like me to do a video going over a little bit of color theory and showing you how I use the color wheel to neutralize my skin tones. Next, I used a brown watercolor pencils to sketch on the placement of her eyes and eyebrows. I wanted to give her eyes a big doe-eyed appearance. After I seal her face, I used copper soft pastels to give her some contour. Now to add some color to her eyes. I like to start out by drawing on her waterline and filling in her irises. Then with a light pink, I went over her lips. With each new layer, I always add more white to the scleras of the eyes. It takes a few layers to get it to be opaque enough. With a black pencil, I fill in her pupils and then use white to give her lids some highlights. I darken up the brown some more before giving her eyeliner and eyelashes. Then, once that's done, I add white acrylic paint for eye shines and a layer of gloss varnish to her eyes and lips. These two are the best of friends and love hanging out together. If you've liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Also, don't forget to turn on the notification bell. I'll have a new doll creation up next week. Thanks for watching!